Greetings from Southern Yankee Homestead. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Today we're getting back into our lower garden. The fencing is up. We're going to continue with supporting the fencing, and then I got some work I want to do to the coop, as well as I need to bring in some dirt so that the chickens don't get underneath and other animals don't get in. Unfortunately, our ground here has a little bit of a bowl in it, so the center of the wiring is not as low as the corners, but I didn't want to bring it up too high, and I certainly didn't want to bring it down too low because I didn't want it to fold over. But before we get into that, we've got these 6-foot trellis rods. They're basically just aluminum poles. We're going to pound them into the ground to help support the fence a little. Just to take out some of the curb that's in it and give it a little bit additional strength. My original plan didn't pan out because, well, the stakes I wanted to get weren't available and we didn't have enough of the tall ones, so this will have to do. Now, with all the posts in, we're going to go back to our friend rebar tie. If you missed the first episode, the reason we're using this is because, well, I have a whole spool of it and I don't use it because I'm not working in construction anymore. So why not use what we got? Well, 1 down, 5 to go. Maybe 6. We'll see. Well, with that done, our fencing is complete for now. I may at a later time do some modifications, like up here. If we decide to plant corn in here, we're going to run an electric fence around this to slow down the squirrels. Because the last time we had corn in either of these gardens, well, we didn't actually have corn in either of these gardens. The squirrels did. But with that, also over here, just over my shoulder in that bald patch there, that's where we're going to put the bees. Well, when we put the bees there, or potentially put the bees, I say potentially because, well, we haven't got into it yet. So when we get our hive and our master beekeeper here, he may say that that's not as good a place as I'd like. The reason I mention that here is because we're going to be fencing the bees. We're in bear country here. Even though we're close to the city, we have a lot of black bears. Black bears love bees and honey. So we will be putting a very powerful electric fence there. And when we do that, we'll probably be putting a fence on this as well, if not before. But anyhow, what I got to do now is I need to bring in some dirt. Because the fence sits a little high and we got that belly in the middle, I want to bring some dirt in so that the chickens have something to play with, as well as I'm going to bring in some compost. Let me take you over to the compost and show you what we're going to be pulling in here. This pile behind me is leaf mulch or leaf compost. There is a little bit of, well, you can see right there, wood shavings mixed in from the goat barn. But for the most part, all of this is all the leaves off the lawn from last year. So we're going to be using a bunch of that in there to help the compost level out. And if you're wondering how we made that, basically the riding mower has a bagger on it. So about this time of year, I'll go through, bag up all the leaves and start a pile. This right here is this year's pile over by the sawmill. The cardboard was the base and the chicken brooder that we had. It's cardboard. It's got no major color shiny stuff on it, so I'll leave it in there to rot down. Easier than burning it. But in that is a bunch of grass clippings, because the last mowing I put in there, as well as leaves, pine needles, little branches, rotting wood. There's also a deer skull over here. If you see the antler sticking out, that's my sister's deer. We're going to be doing a European mount on the skull, so easiest way to clean it is to bury it. And in this year is this last 2 years garden. We've decided to close this garden out because it's too far away from our water source where we're doing the garden. Yeah, it's Brussels sprouts. They're not doing great, but they're doing. But this is a little bit higher. There's some wood chips in there and a couple years worth of growth, so we're going to go ahead and scrape this out, and we're going to use this dirt in the new garden that we're building down there. And those compost piles out there in the sun, we're not going to be using those this year. Well, we might use them later in the year, in the spring or whatnot, but right now, no intentions of using it. So let me get the ATV back in the garage and unloaded. Then we're going to switch over to the tractor and go ahead and start carting material around. We do have one other thing we got to do to that chicken coop as well. Actually, a couple little things, but we'll get to those after we get some dirt in there. I took a little time and cleaned out the coop, and as you can see now, I've got the dirt all in there along the edges. If you're wondering why I didn't smooth it out, well, the chickens will do it much better than I will. Inside of, I'll say, a month or two, even the young chickens will have this area almost completely level, other than some moon craters in the middle of it. So we're going to let them do all the heavy lifting. But now we need to go ahead and tackle the coop. What we have is, first things first, we're going to add some runners in here. Very simple. I got some maybe 3/4 by 2s. We're just going to go ahead and screw them in there so that the chickens have a perch to roost on, versus, you know, just standing in their own crap, per se. And again, we're keeping it simple. We're just going to take some screws and go right into the substructure. Just want to make sure it don't move. And it split, to be expected. Alright, I decided to get a little creative on this one. So what I did was I put a bevel in it so that I can put this in here about like this. About like this. I'll show you what we're going to do here in a second. Don't worry, this will make sense in a minute. Oh. There. Now. That might be too close, but it should hold it just fine. So what I got to do now is give it a bath, or give those a bath because they haven't been washed in a while. So I'll bring those up to the house here in a minute. And I think this coop is ready to have some chickens put in it. So it's taken me a long time to get to this point, but finally done and ready for the chickens to move in. If you're wondering why this post and this post are not supported like the rest of them, it's because to get the coop in and out, I have to lift both roofs up so that they're in the up position to fit it through here. In the event I want to get the tractor in there and do heavy tilling, I want to be able to pull this side of the fence away and not have to worry about resetting cross beams. But the goal is to keep the chickens in and the predators out. Hopefully this will work. If not, we'll revisit it. But it was time consuming, but it's a pretty simple project. And hopefully this garden will turn out really good this year. But we'll see. Is there something on my eye? Nope. So this is the start of our 2022 garden, even though we're still in December of 2021. Yeah, nothing left to do but bring in half dozen poop monsters and have them turn it up and poop over everything. Good fertilizer. Anyhow, Hope you enjoyed this episode. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Son of a gun.